Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Mr. Chairman, you compared me with a pelican, definitely an old pelican, but not as old as 1425. The date on this slide indeed refers to the founding year of my university, the Catholic University of Leuven, founded by the Pope in 1425. Ladies and gentlemen, it's the first time that I come to Romania since I've retired from the European Commission. I am indeed a regulator. So everything that you think is bad about regulators, here it is. But I am a former regulator. I am no longer a regulator, ladies and gentlemen. What I wanted to say is actually follow up on what Paul was bringing to you. What I've learned through my years at the European Commission is that insurance is complex. And we are all mistaken if we believe that normal human beings who are not working in insurance know anything about insurance. And that's why they need help. They need service. And Paul will remember that I've said that many times at conferences of BPAR. I've said that we need intermediaries because we need service. And the good message I bring you today is that with all the changes that are going to come, don't worry about it. As long as you provide good, high-quality service, people will come to you. Because they will make mistakes. They will believe they can do it on themselves. And they will come back because they believe you can offer them a better service. Strategic issues. The European Commission and the European Parliament have a clear focus of bringing Europe closer to the citizens. We could talk a long time, ladies and gentlemen, about Europe. We're soon going to have a debate in the United Kingdom about Brexit. Do we need Europe? One thing is certain, in Brussels, everybody believes that what is necessary is to bring that bureaucracy that people believe is huge, which is much smaller, I can tell you, to bring it closer to the citizens by providing you more options and more protection. Cross-border sale of insurance products in the internal market almost does not happen. And I can give you the example of a former president of the European Commission, Manuel Barroso, who, when he moved from Portugal to Brussels, found out that he had to pay more for his insurance premium for driving his motor car in Brussels. So he immediately talked to the competent commissioner in the European Commission, who was Charlie McCreevy, former Irish commissioner, and said, "Commissioner, you're in charge of the internal market in insurance. Where is that internal market? You're not doing your job." You can imagine a commissioner being told by the president he's not doing his job. He has to find somebody who's guilty. So he went to see me. And he said, "Karel, what's going on here?" I said, "Commissioner, this is complex." No, that's not an answer. I want to know why my president has to pay more for his liability insurance in Brussels than in Lisbon. So I immediately went to see the insurance industry in Europe and said, this is an emergency situation. It's life-saving. If you don't give the right answer here, the world's going to collapse for you. So after many, many discussions and papers and what have you, we came to the conclusion. And the conclusion was, there is a linkage between insurance, between a risk and a premium. Ladies and gentlemen, nobody outside the insurance world knows that there is a linkage between a risk and a premium. And I could only convince with great difficulties all these intelligent people that that is the case. And that's why, because the risk in Brussels is higher than in Portugal, you need to pay more for your insurance. As simple as that. Insurance products are different from member state to member state because they are linked to culture, to socio-economic development. So they seem the same, but they are not necessarily the same. Insurance distribution channels are not always transparent. And I have given this as an example myself many times. I think it's good as a regulator sometimes when you talk to the industry that comes to lobby you, you say, well, my personal experience is this. I can tell you in my own country, I still believe that the insurance distribution channel is not transparent. We do not know necessarily what part of the premium is protecting me and goes to somewhere else. There has been mis-selling, particularly in insurance, in investment products with an insurance wrapper. And after the financial crisis, we've seen that many people ended up buying products where they didn't really know what they had been buying. This is something that I give to my students, and I ask them, can you explain these acronyms to me? There's very few people in the world, ladies and gentlemen, who could care less about these acronyms. But I can invent more if you want. MIFID, PRIEPS, RTS on Kiet, MIFID 1, MIFIR, Delegated Acts, IDDs, ITS, IPIT, EIOPA. Just invent some more acronyms. It's a disaster. But this is the world of today. This is what you are faced with all these situations. What Paul said about this slide is very important. It is indeed that there has always been a big struggle when we talk about the investment products, whether we need to move in the direction of MiFID or whether we will recognize the insurance aspects of these products. And that's very important. It was important for EIOPA, for the supervisors it's important, because if you say that an insurance product with an investment product with an insurance wrapper is an investment product, then other people are in charge. It's ESMA, it's no longer EIOPA. And again, remember, always keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, nobody outside the insurance area has the slightest clue of what insurance is. So if you ask the bankers to regulate it, the securities regulators to regulate it, they're gonna make a lot of mistakes. That is a problem, and that's why it is important that we need to have certainty that the proper people are going to deal with the issues. Now, why did we amend the Insurance Mediation Directive? I remember it was the directive, the first directive that I was in charge with when I moved from, my life at the European Commission has been terrible. I was first asked to deal with accounting, and everybody said, the poor guy, accounting. That's not very interesting, is it? Then they moved me to auditing. They said, oh, he really didn't make it. And then they were searching for somebody to do insurance. And I did insurance and said, he really had a terrible career at the Commission. Well, that was insurance. The first thing I had to deal with was the IMD. The IMD, Insurance Mediation Directive. The European Parliament, when we were negotiating Solvency II, they said, well, you're now building a beautiful life for the insurance industry, but where are the policyholders? We want to have some consumer protection issues. So we need to amend the IMD. Meanwhile, the bankers had been involved in all these investment products. The MiFID was set up for financial products. The package retail investment products directives were coming. So what we really wanted is to improve consumer protection, extending the scope. A challenge for all of us as private citizens. That is that the internet is going to take over. The young pelicans, Mr. Chairman, the very young pelicans of tomorrow, they're going to conclude insurance contracts with their mobiles. They don't not go to anything. They just think about this thing here. And they want to do it that way. But we were saying we need to extend the protection to all channels of distributing insurance products. So if an insurance company directly sells, it needs to have the same requirements of consumer protection as an intermediary. Increasing transparency, mitigating conflicts of interest. Introducing proportionate professional qualifications. This is very important. The chairman was saying that the world will be different tomorrow after IMD2. Paul will agree with me, the world was different with IMD1. IMD1 created for the first time a requirement to register all intermediaries. with appropriate qualifications. As Paul indicated, the Germans were the last to implement the IMD1. Why were the Germans the last? There are 500,000 intermediaries in Germany. And the big country, Germany, could not manage to organize a registration for 500,000 people. It took them 5 years to find out how to do that. They made a mess out of it, and that mess is still there, ladies and gentlemen. But the question is, how can we ensure that the people who are intermediate in selling insurance products are properly qualified? And that's the issue which is very important. Complex products, perhaps needed to be specially regulated. And then cross-border sales, ladies and gentlemen, there's always a problem in Europe. Once you cross a border, it is as if you are in a different world, although it's exactly the same. But that's because all our member states believe they are so terribly important, which they are not, by the way. Insurance Distribution Directive. The name was changed during the negotiations under the Italian presidency into Insurance Distribution Directive because it deals with all channels of distribution. Better regulation of division of competence between home and host supervisors. I'm speaking in the presence of the Romanian supervisor, but he will definitely agree that supervisors believe they are terribly important. So whenever you cross the border in their territory, they want to have some competence. And what we want as European regulators is that these supervisors talk to each other and try to resolve the issues and not say, this is my job, stay out of my pond, I am competent here. No, do it together. Try to work together. That's very important. Professional qualifications, you will have to do continuous education. Under IMD2, you will telling me, I'm already doing that. Fine, great. We'll show how you do that. Requirement to set up out-of-court redress procedures. Not everything needs to end up in court. If you can do it out of court, that's even better. It's cheaper. You don't need lawyers. Disclosure of the amount of the fee. There needs to be more transparency in that area. Cross-selling, product oversight and governance. Paul talked about that. Additional requirements for insurance-based investment products, and then the sanctions, which will also be more severe and more specific. A new document is going to come up, an insurance product investment document, information document. That's the contents. So particularly for health, motor and home insurance, there will be this document that you will have to give to the consumer before he signs his insurance contract. EIOPA is doing a field study. They'll do some consumer experience studies, and then we'll come up with some proposals, which then will lead to the Commission issuing a regulation with the implementing technical standards. For insurance-based investment products, we have more elaborate rules. Why? Because we had that mis-selling. So there is uniform rules already present for all investment products, but then you have the specific rules that the IDD is adding here. Very important is the third bullet point here. The fees or commissions or any non-monetary benefit can only be accepted by insurance intermediaries or insurance undertakings if there is no detrimental impact on quality of the service, no detrimental impact on the compliance with the duty to act honestly, fairly, and professionally in the best interest of the consumer. That is basically the philosophy. You can have all kinds of arrangements that you want, but please make sure that your customer comes first. That is very important. Member states can issue stricter rules. They can prohibit commissions. They can prohibit all kinds of non-monetary benefits. They can regulate them more tightly. That is possible. Inducements are very important in this context. And the IDD remains a minimum harmonization directive. Why do we have a minimum harmonization directive, ladies and gentlemen? I can tell you that. I was a great opponent to maximum harmonization, because maximum harmonization means that you have the most elaborate detailed regulation of any member state imposed on all other member states. We have member states in Europe that are very regulatory. One of them will soon have a referendum on Brexit. I do remember one day I was invited by the mayor of the City of London for a private dinner. And we were just 5 people sitting around the table in London. And the dinner was called with the industry to discuss over-regulation from Brussels. And so I took the floor and I said, Mr. Mayor, I want to tell you a little story. I said, you know the Insurance Mediation Directive? It's about 10 pages in the official journal of the European Union. Mr. Mayor, do you know how many pages the UK needed to transpose this directive in UK law? He looked at me. I said, 200 pages. And he looked at me. And the whole dinner then was about what can we do in the UK about overregulation in the UK. So I won my dinner, I think, for the Commission here. Conflicts of interest. IDD does not prohibit commissions or other types of remuneration, but imposes transparency, but the member states can go beyond that, particularly for insurance-based investment products. Additional requirements may be imposed by home and host member state regulators. These are some questions I wanted to put up so that you can keep them in mind when we have our discussions later in the panel. What will be the impact of prohibiting commissions on the delivery of advice to consumers? We've seen in the UK, also in the United States, that now a lot of people are without advice. Now, what is better? Who will still want to sell insurance-based investment products? If you need to be a genius to sell these products, who wants to be a genius? You know? How many member states will go beyond the minimum requirements? And how will this affect cross-border business? Is transparency about the potential conflict of interest better than regulating the conflict? Is transparency about the product better than regulating the product? Some people believe regulating the product is the ultimate goal. Does the creation of an internal market require regulating both conflicts of interest and products? With that, I want to conclude. But I won't conclude without a word of thanks to Alexandru, who's standing over there, who is representing you all very well. He's the Romanian voice in the stakeholder group. He's very active, and I want to thank him here in public for his good service that he does in the EIOPA stakeholder group. And I want to remind you, as my last word, that your future, you have it in your own hands. If you deliver a high-quality service, no need to worry. The world looks bright. Thank you very much.